Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Mom and Podcast. We are here with episode 7, and I'm Megan.
And I'm Jessica.
And we're excited to be back once again.
Yes.
What's new with you?
Well, I think as I've mentioned, everyone sort of knows, I have a 1-year-old son. He's 15 months, almost 16 months, and he just discovered how to walk. So we are dealing with him getting into everything and falling all the time. Right before we started recording this, about an hour before, I had to text Megan because Truman fell down the stairs. So that was a bit of excitement. Didn't cry though. Seemed like he was totally fine, but definitely a bit startling. So just, in that phase of life where we have to be much more aware and cautious of every single thing around us.
Yes.
The day is coming, but you always think you have more time. So it's funny though, Nora has become his protector, so she has decided it's sort of her responsibility to take care of him. So I now feel like I have to constantly remind her that it's not her job, it's not her responsibility, because she felt like it was her fault that he fell down
Oh,
the stairs.
no.
And she ran up to me and was the one that was like, "Mommy, he fell on the stairs." And she was like, "It was my fault. I threw his bear down the stairs." And then she was really upset and went up to my husband, Sean, and said, "I'm just really sad. Truman, he went for the bear and it's my fault." And, explaining to her that she doesn't need to take care of him. Like, it's our job to keep him safe and her safe. But that was a dynamic I wasn't really expecting. And I feel so bad for her because she has taken it on for whatever reason. So I need to be, I think, more aware of what I'm saying to her too. Like, oh, if I ask her what Truman's doing, is she going to take that as you are in charge of Truman as the 4-year-old?
She might. So literal, 4-year-olds.
Yeah. So and make sure that gate is up 24/7 with Truman. I had taken it down to go down the stairs and bring some laundry down, but nope, that's not an option anymore.
No, I didn't know that about Nora. She didn't even used to like him.
No, it's more recent because now she
Oh.
really loves him. She has really taken on the little mother role. So that's been fun. What's going on with you?
I did not tell you what Tori is doing for climbing. Today, I was bringing groceries in through our side door, and Tori was like pulled up in the window. And I was like, "How are you up there?" Because I should barely see her head, and I could see like her whole head. And I came around front, and there were no toys. And I was like, "Patrick, go look. What is happening?" And she was standing like on an electric cord that was plugged in. There was just enough room for her little foot to use that as a little bit of like a boost, and then she pulled herself into the window.
You mean like a plug?
Yeah, it's like a power strip plug, so it is like a little bit. It's not the power strip part, it's just the part that plugs into the outlet, but she like had her foot on that, I guess, which I didn't anticipate being an issue.
You should have with Tori, with
But
Supergirl Tori, you absolutely should have, but that's a whole other level of
yeah, so
baby
she could
proofing.
electrocute herself,
Oh,
but
for sure.
that yeah.
But you couldn't
But
prepare
yeah.
for that. I mean, you have to have things plugged in.
Yeah, I can't believe I forgot that when we were chatting.
Oh my gosh, Tori is, for anyone listening, the strongest child I have ever met in my life. It's unbelievable. She's so strong and so uninhibited. She's not afraid of anything. She'll climb anything, but I have never seen a kid with that much muscle.
She is afraid of your dog.
She is afraid of our dog, as we recently discovered, which I feel so badly about.
Yes, but Truman's okay, and now he's asleep?
He's asleep, he's fine, he fell asleep nursing, so yeah, hopefully he's A-okay. I might have to go in and check on him in the middle of the night, but I'm
I
sure.
always do.
You know
I
what?
always do.
It's so funny, you always do, and mom always says that she does or did. I
Mhm.
never do for fear of waking the child.
Yeah, you're more afraid of that,
Oh, I'm
like, of their
terrified of it.
sleep than
Yeah.
yeah. I'm more afraid of I don't know, I always make sure they're breathing if they had something happen to them. Not that me checking on them 2 hours later would be helpful.
Well, it
But
could. You never know. I mean, you just
I always
don't know.
check if they've been sick. If they're sick, do you check in the middle of the night?
Oh, no.
Oh.
No, I let them sleep. I mean, I have the monitor that zooms in, so I'll check to
Oh.
make sure that they're breathing, like their chest is going up and down.
Mhm.
So I'll do that. Like I'll stare at the monitor intently for like 5 minutes to be like, okay, I see the chest moving. Or I'll have Sean verify like everything's looking good. I don't unless they're crying or call for me, I do not go in that room.
You know, what's amazing is what people will sleep through. After years of bedside nursing and having to take, like, vitals on even adults at night in their sleep. That sounds creepy. It was at the
It does
hospital.
sound creepy. Megan
But it's
creeps into people's rooms. Make sure their blood pressure's all good.
when I checked it on people who needed it, if they were in the hospital and knew I was their nurse.
Right, and it was approved. Well, I mean, I
Yeah.
have got, like, if because for a long time, Nora was a little still, she likes to fall asleep with the door cracked open, and I always just shut it, especially
Mhm.
because the dog likes to push the door open and surprise people. But so I guess on occasion, I would, like, peek my head in a little bit before I shut the door, but no, I'm not one of those parents, and I think it's because I can see them on the video monitor, and I am a paranoid person about their sleep.
So you wouldn't have cleaned up Asher's whole room while he was sleeping the other night.
No, when you told me that, I was like, I mean, good for you, but no way, man.
I could see that though. I feel like Tori sleeps more like Nora, and Tori, I could not clean her room. I don't know if I'll be able to when she's older, but if I open the door, she wakes up. She just falls back asleep. But
But you even would like if you had laundry to put away, you would go into Asher's room at night and put his laundry away while he's sleeping, right?
if he's asleep enough, yeah.
Yeah, no. I mean,
But I went in Tori's room. But so,
that see, just different, which is fine, but no, I would not do that.
hmm. Would you in either? Would you in Truman's room?
No.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, I'm also terrified of the thought of someone coming into my room when I'm sleeping. Like every night when Sean comes in the room, if I'm asleep first, I jerk awake like he is a murderer. So
Obviously, I do too.
so he is I mean, that's just good sense, but it's also so I think it's partly that where, like, I'm such a light sleeper that I I
Oh.
project that onto everyone else where I'm like, "Oh, no, they must be that way too, so I'm not going to make a peep."
Oh, that makes sense. You're just protecting them
Yeah,
from startling
yeah,
them.
I
Yeah.
mean, I remember one time when I was in college home for the summer and dad must have been concerned for something for some reason, but I was sound asleep and I woke up and he was standing above me and he was like, "Are you okay?" There was a bang. And I was like, "What?" Like, there might be now because I'm about to have a heart attack. Like,
Why?
I have it was terrifying and no, just no.
Okay.
So, on that uplifting note, today we are so excited to have an interview with Cassie Cercy. Cassie is a mom of four. She is the proud former owner of Stroller Strong Moms Savannah. It's a workout group for new moms. She is the wife of a military member, so she is more than used to relocating. I think she said she has been in 9 locations since she and her husband have been married. So she was incredibly uplifting and motivational. I am honestly still riding a high from our chat with her, which was a week ago. She gave such great advice about just tackling habits and tackling things in such a manageable way that I have thought about it so much since then. And more than once a day, I think, well, oh, Cassie said that. Like, oh, if it just takes 2 minutes or less, just do it. And honestly, it's such a simple concept, but was so incredible. And she was just amazing. So we really hope that you find this episode as inspiring as we did.
And also, by the way, I have been using the 2-minute thing too. So we're excited for you guys to hear that part. About halfway through, you do hear her son banging on the door a little bit. And that's just real life. And shockingly, in my house, I don't think we would have got it to stop, but shockingly, it goes away quickly. But you will hear that part just for a little tiny bit, and it's funny and sweet and real. So hopefully that doesn't bother anyone too much because it certainly didn't bother
No,
us.
true mom fashion, just rolling with the
Yeah.
punches.
And with that, you can find us at Mom and Podcast on Instagram, momandpodcast.com. When you have time, please head over and give us a rating and review. And if you like what you hear, we'd love it if you would share it with some mom friends. Enjoy listening.
Thank you. Hi, Cassie. Thank you so much for joining us today on this episode of Mommin'.
Thanks for having me.
We're so excited to talk to you today. So, to get started, we usually just have you talk a little bit about yourself, like where you live, if you're married, how many kids you have, what you do for work, that kind of thing.
Okay, so I'm Cassie. I have been married to my husband Brian for 10 years. We started dating, well, I guess it was the end of my senior year of high school. He was in college. But funny, cute little backstory. My dad coached he and my brother in Little League. So we've known each other for forever. We were never really like interested in each other growing up. We went to rival high schools and whatever, but always kind of knew each other and then started dating mainly in college. And I've been together ever since. We have 4 kids. We have 3 boys and a girl. So Jackson turned 8 yesterday. Tyson will turn 6 on the 12th. So in 6 days, 5 days. Mason is 3. And then Kinsley just turned 1.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. I love that variety of ages too.
It's a
Does the
lot.
8-year-old
Yeah.
does the 8-year-old love having little siblings?
Oh my gosh. So they're funny. They all love having the baby. They like the 8-year-old and 6-year-old will play together. The 6-year-old and 3-year-old will play together. Sometimes all 3 of them. So that's been kind of like interesting just to see all their dynamics kind of mix and mingle and whatever. But ultimately, all of them love, love, love the baby. Like, they'll like take her out of her crib, they'll hold her, they'll get her snacks. It's actually been really nice this time around because like sometimes my husband and I'll be sitting at the dinner table and we're like, "Can you get the baby a water?" And they're just into having a little baby right now. So that's really nice.
That's amazing. You have 3 helpers.
I do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And she's the baby, but also the only
The
girl.
only
So
girl.
everyone,
Mhm.
yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That's yes.
Oh wow.
I'm curious because people always say, like, debate, like, what was the hardest adjustment, like from 1 to 2 or 0 to 1 or 2 to 3? Do you feel like there was an addition of a child that was harder for you guys or more of an adjustment?
Okay, so 0 to 1 was really hard. I was like,
Mm.
what happened? I have no idea what I'm doing. Like breastfeeding, giving birth was hard. Breastfeeding
Mhm.
was hard. Figuring out like what do you do with a newborn? And honestly, for the first like 6 months, I was like, okay, so I feed the baby, I change the baby sleeps. Like, do I put on Mickey Mouse? Do we like what do we do? So that was definitely an adjustment. And then from 1 to 2, breastfeeding was easier because I knew what I was doing, but the baby, I only had to like coach the baby essentially. And I knew kind of like, okay, they're going to go through certain growth spurts and be fussy. And I've kind of got my hands on that. However, having a 2-year-old and a baby was really hard, like because they both need you. So
Mhm.
even
Mhm.
though the 2-year-old could kind of be more independent, ultimately, like, you still have to feed them, change them, get them dressed, everything. So you kind of have 2 babies. So that was hard during that season. And then 2 to 3 was probably the easiest for me because at that point I had a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a baby. And my 4-year-old could then, get himself dressed, go to the bathroom by himself. He could get diapers for me. He could help out.
Mhm.
And then I thought that 3 to 4 would just be easy because 2 to 3 was easier. And the first 6 months of having 4 kids was like, oh my gosh. Like somebody once told us a quote, it's like you're drowning and somebody throws you a baby. And that was what it was. We were like, literally, what is happening right now? Like, I mean, I don't know if it just was like outside life scenarios that were happening, crazy things, or just the chaos of having 4. And even though I had a lot of helpers, it was so chaotic. Now it's like 1,000 times better. But the first 6 months was like, really rough. Like, what did we do? Oh man. Yeah.
I've never heard that phrase, but I love it because it sounds accurate.
Yeah. Actually, when we, just a quick story on that, when we were moving from my husband's military, so when we were moving from Monterey, California back to Georgia, where we are right now, you travel the entire country to get from coast to coast. And we were in a hotel one night and our kids had all gotten sick. It was over Christmas, and blessing and a curse, because obviously when they're sick, they don't feel good. They sleep a lot. So it made the car ride great because they just wanted to sleep and they weren't fussing about being in the car. But we did get the pukes. So my 3-year-old was throwing up in the hotel and he was sleeping in the bed with my husband and he threw up. And the baby, who was only, I think she was 6 months, we were co-sleeping. So I had her in bed and it's the middle of the night and the 3-year-old starts throwing up and I get out of bed and I start helping my husband, who's like covered in vomit. And the 3-year-old's like, the bathroom is covered in vomit. And then the next thing we know, the baby must have woken up and she had just started crawling and she smashed her face. She fell off the bed, smashed her face, like bloody nose. And we kind of looked at each other. We like called the ER. I'm like, we have one car, we've got a dog, we've got 4 kids, and there's only 2 of us, and one's puking, and the other one is like a 6-month-old baby who like, does she have a concussion? Did she break her nose? Luckily, she was fine, but it was one of those moments where we were like, I don't even know where we are right now, somewhere in the middle of the country at a random hotel, and we're like vomit and blood, and yeah.
Oh my gosh,
it was a lot.
That makes any bad day I've had with my children sound like nothing, to be honest.
I kind of appreciate having a new bar to be like, okay, at least I'm not in that situation.
That sounds so hard.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It was a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
We all survived. We're all here.
You're silent. Wow. I think too, like from my personal experience, once they hit 1, things seem to get easier.
Yeah.
But I can only imagine when you have 4 children comparative to like, it was so much easier with my one child turning 1.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a lot. So if you're comfortable sharing, we like to talk to all of our guests about sort of how they decided to have kids and when they knew that they were ready with their spouse, or if they talked about it beforehand. If you're okay sharing any of that.
Yeah. So we actually, I guess our first year of marriage, he was pretty much deployed the entire year. We had been dating long before then. We got married. I graduated college a semester early, and we got married 3 days after that. I moved to Fort Drum, New York, which is pretty much in Canada. It's like 20 minutes from the border. And we lived together for like 3 months. We knew he was going to deploy, so that's why we kind of like rushed the marriage. And then he deployed for our first year. And then when he got back, I think it was March of that year. And then that November, we were driving to his grandparents' house for Thanksgiving. And we had like a, 5 or 6 hour drive. And we started talking about kids. And we both of us wanted a big family. I have a brother, he has a sister, but our parents had lots of siblings. And so growing up, we always were involved in like big holidays, And so we kind of just decided we wanted to have 4 kids. I do have to say, when I had just the 2, when they were the 2-year-old and like a baby, at that point, I do remember looking at a family picture and being like, that's it. I think that's it for me. I don't think I can handle any more than these 2 boys. And the next thing I knew, I was already pregnant. So I think that was God's way of being like, here you go, sister. Here's your plate of children. You are going to have four. So yeah.
Good you didn't have much time to think about that
I
or
did
stay
it.
in that
Yeah.
train of
Yeah.
thought. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that's so
Yes.
great. It's so funny because I feel like so many people that I talk to, when one spouse wants 4 and the other one wants 2. And that's how
Mhm.
my husband and I are
Yeah.
too. And so it's just so funny. That's awesome that you guys are on the same page and just agreed on that so quickly. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
And stuck with it. Like, I think that's
Yeah.
impressive that you were like, "Yeah, that's what we want," and it's, like, truly what you wanted and did like, I'm always like, "I don't know, I
Yeah.
don't know. I thought I wanted 4. I don't know if I can do a third."
Yeah. I mean, literally though, at that time, I was like, I can't do this. He was
Mhm.
deploying and I mean, he's always deploying, but it was a lot at that time. And literally that was the one pregnancy I didn't know I was pregnant until I was 9 weeks pregnant, which was
Oh,
crazy
wow.
because the other ones I'm not a very good pregnant person, but that one I did not know until I was 9 weeks, and at the time, I was like, "I can't do this. 2 is our limit, like, we're not gonna have any more," and then, lo and behold, I was yeah. So, then at that point, I was like, "We're gonna have 4," so
Oh,
Wow.
wow. So you talked a tiny bit about this, but what is it like being a military spouse?
um, it's like a community that it's just very different than anything else. I have a lot of what they call, I guess, civilian friends and friendships and those kind of things, but being a military spouse, you really people just love hard. You kind of don't go in with the like, let's be acquaintances, let's, kind of figure out each other. Should we do a play date? Should we not do a play date? Like you move into a neighborhood and it's like, hey, we're having a barbecue tonight. You're invited. What do you need? I'm bringing you dinner tomorrow. Also, if you need an emergency contract or contact for your kid's school, put me on the list. I know you met me 5 days ago, but like I'm here for you. And I think it's because everybody moves so much that we just all understand that your parents aren't around the corner. You don't have your lifelong best friend, 10 minutes away, or maybe she moved 15 minutes away. Like you just are put somewhere and you're on your own essentially, but the other wives and families understand that. And so everybody just comes in hard. So it's very unique. And I kind of feel lucky that I get to experience that.
That sounds I don't know any of that, so that sounds really incredible. Like,
Yeah. Like that support structure that's built in. Like you said, everyone knows. So you're all there for each other. I'm sure you've done that for so many people too. That's really incredible.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Was that an adjustment for you because or was your family military?
No, my family was not military at all. And so, first moving away from my family was, I mean, that was like, a big adjustment. Luckily, I pretty much immediately met my very best friend. She was my very first Army friend, and we still are best friends to this day. And it worked out beautifully that way. I don't know if everybody has that experience, but I feel lucky that, I got to have that. Yeah, I mean, having her initially really helped. And then, when you move to other places, just kind of going in with that mentality of, we're just like I said, you just kind of love hard. You go in loving hard. So yeah.
Yeah.
wow.
I'm so glad to hear that's your experience too. Because from an outsider's perspective, I see it and I think how hard that must be and how overwhelming. So that's wonderful to hear that that's sort of a built in community, it seems like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And how often do you relocate, or is it a set number of years?
We um we've moved a lot. So I think it's been 9 different duty stations. So perspective, my 8-year-old who just turned 8, he has lived in 5 different houses already. So
Wow.
we move every couple of years. We have been in Georgia the majority of our career, and luckily in Savannah for the bulk of it. We did have a move, quote unquote move, from one duty station to another in Savannah. We did move houses, but ultimately, like, our routine stayed the same. The kids went to the same school and, whatever. So even though we moved houses and moved units, we had the same, routine. And now we are back where we were 3 years ago. So it's kind of, it feels like home here in Georgia.
Have you guys ever gone overseas, or where all have you
We
gone?
haven't.
Okay.
Yeah, most of it's been in Georgia. We would go overseas, but we just haven't. We started out, well, I guess my husband's very first duty station was Fort Lewis, Washington, in Washington State. And then he went to Fort Benning, which is in Georgia. And then we were married and lived Fort Drum, New York, and then back to Fort Benning, and then Savannah, and then another unit in Savannah, and then back to Benning, and then Monterey, California, and now we're back in Savannah. So really, Benning and Savannah have been our two little biggest
Wow.
homes, I guess. Yeah, for the most part.
And where are your families? Where are you guys from?
We are both from Colorado. Our
Okay.
parents, like I said, we went to rival high school, so we grew up 10 minutes away from each other. My sister-in-law and I were roommates in college, and so they're all still in Colorado. My dad is in Florida, and his dad is in Chicago, but everybody
Okay.
else is still in Colorado.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
The amount of places you just listed.
Yes.
So do you get like homes on the base, or do you rent homes? How does that work?
We have lived on post almost all of our houses except for one. When we first moved to Savannah, we bought a house. And I know a lot of people that like enjoy doing that, and living off post and whatever. Selling that house on a time frame was something I never want to do again. I was like, I mean, if the opportunity happened, whatever. If something happened and we bought a house later, I'm never going to say never. But really, until we're out of the military, I don't think I want to buy a house again. I love
That's
living
fair.
on post. You're in kind of like shoebox cookie cutter houses. They're nothing huge, nothing fancy. But ultimately, I feel like the community on post is something you just can't replicate in a neighborhood. It's kind of like the 1950s style of neighborhood, if you can imagine that. So, like, everybody's out, everybody's barbecuing, everybody's kids play with everybody. If you haven't seen your neighbor in like a day and a half, you kind of call and are like, what's going on? Are you okay? Like, oh yeah, we're out of town for 3 days, whatever. Or, a lot of us with our husbands being gone a lot, it's that, fun little thing of we have to take out the trash and mow the lawn. And so if a husband is home, it's always nice. I know my husband is the first to be like, hey, I'll mow your lawn if your husband's gone, or like, I'll take the trash out for you, whatever, just kind of helping out because everybody understands, the hardships and the burdens that are being placed on the family. And when you live in a normal neighborhood and you're the military one, but everybody else isn't, I just don't think it's not intentional that that doesn't happen. It just, people aren't aware of the different things happening. And so, yeah, I feel like the community, I'll take the, cheap builder's grade house for the community that we get.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so you say it's not intentional, but it does make me a little sad for people who choose to live off post, because I don't think we can fully understand the sacrifice that both the military member and their family make. Something that I
Mhm.
take for granted of, oh, my husband's taking the trash out. You don't even have that option. So that both sad, but I'm also so glad that it exists on the post for you.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you, for anyone who maybe is early on as a military spouse or as the person in the military now having children, do you have any tips for kind of, it sounds like you kind of have to go with the flow with moving, or any advice for someone just starting that?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is a very go with the flow. There was a running joke with the military spouses going around when COVID happened, and it was like, "Oh, I can tell you've never had the government ruin your plans before." But that's like, it's true. Like, you plan on, we used to do beach trips all the time with my husband's family. And it was like, all right, he's going to have block leave next year over these 2 weeks. So we'd like set up the beach trip, and ultimately like the block leave would get shifted to the right or to the left, and everybody would go to the beach because they paid for the house. You've only got those 2 weeks to do it. They planned it around us, and he can't go anymore, you know? So you do have to really just understand that there are a lot of things that are out of your control, and no dates are set in stone. You have to, kind of just understand that and go with it. I think one of the biggest things, for military spouses, especially new ones, you got to be on the same team. My husband and I, we have to, and that was hard, in the early stages of marriage and military life, we kind of had to have those conversations of like, he's not staying late at work because he wants to. He doesn't want to get home at 8 o'clock at night, but there are different things that he has to do that, they are keeping him there. It's not because he wants to, it's because of the job. And so ultimately we had to, come to a point where it's like, we're on the same team. We both mutually want to be together as much as we can. And there are outside factors that will prohibit different things. But at the end of the day, if we can just like come together and realize like same team, we can get through all of it and we can talk through it. And it's easier for me to understand and to, go through those things knowing that like it's more of it's the job. And there is a bigger picture with the job, which I think now I understand more. We've been in longer. So yeah. Yeah.
So that makes that I think that's helpful for any marriage.
Yeah.
That's great advice.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to remind yourself that you chose to be on the same team,
Yes.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
sure.
How often does he deploy, or how it sounds like he's was recently gone, correct?
Yeah, he just got
Okay.
back. So he's with a unit that deploys every year. They're shorter deployments, which is nice. But he deploys really frequently. We actually, right before we moved to Georgia, we were in Monterey, California for a year and a half, and he was in a school, which was really nice because it was kind of a break, like more downtime. He had a normal schedule of like 8 to 5, which is really great. So that was a really nice break for us. But then, yeah, we got back here and he deployed and just got back.
Wow. Whirlwind.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
so transitioning a little bit, you were part of I don't know if it's a program, what you call it, but the Stroller Strong Moms.
Uh-huh.
Do you want to talk about what that is and how you got involved with it and just sort of give us an overview of it?
Yeah. So Stroller Strong Moms is an organization, a stroller fitness organization that was actually created by a military spouse. Her name's Alexa Smith. And she had started it a year before I joined, and she started it at Fort Benning, one of the places we always were. And then she moved to Savannah, and I had just had my first son in September, which is when she started Stroller Strong in Savannah, Georgia. And my friend Katie, the very first Army friend I ever had, she was at Fort Benning at the time. We were pregnant at the same time. So she had her daughter 3 weeks before I had Jackson. And she said, I just started this stroller group, workout group, and you should go. I just heard the owner actually moved to Savannah. So at 8 weeks postpartum, loaded up my stroller and I was like, okay, that's cute. Like, I'll try it out. It'll, get us out of the house. And it kicked my butt the first day, like really kicked my butt. Everybody knows this is my story. I was like, oh, my baby needs to breastfeed so I could take a break because like in the middle of class, I was like, I gotta feed him.
And you were an athlete, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I ran one track. I was a sprinter. Yeah, it's an intense workout group. It's not just walking in the park. We do a lot of Alexa was a professional soccer player. So she came in with the mindset of, we could sing songs to the babies, and there are groups that do that. And that is wonderful if that's, what you want to do. Everybody's got their own cup of tea, and I support all of them. Stroller Strong is more of like, you're an athlete, or I'm going to train you to become an athlete. So it's a little bit more intense, which was great. I ate it right up, So I became an instructor with Stroller Strong pretty much right away. And then when Alexa moved, because military spouse, she moved from Savannah. I was here. She asked me to be her manager. And then a couple months later, asked me if I wanted to buy the business and become the owner of Savannah. And I didn't hesitate. I did. So, yeah.
Awesome.
That's so great. I mean, what a way to combine like motherhood with your interest
Mhm.
in fitness. That's so great.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It was a really great season. I actually just sold the business about a month ago. It was, just a really, really great season and chapter in my life. All my kids got to experience it. We just would get up, go to the park, work out. They would play with their friends after. It was a great time, especially as a new mom. Man, being able to talk to new moms and say, like, is your baby not sleeping? Is your baby eating? Is your baby not eating? Is your baby, I'm losing my mind. I'm so tired. And another mom just being like, me too. So it
Yes.
was a great, man, yeah, especially for beginning of motherhood, needing that community.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's wonderful. Wow.
How did you balance all of that, like running that, especially if your husband was working long hours or deployed and you had your kiddos? How did you do that?
You know, I'm not sure, but one foot in front of the other every day. Took advantage of nap time a lot of times, to do the business side of things. I always joked that like every day was bring your kid to work day. So while it's bittersweet because there are a lot of great things. The whole reason why I did it in the first place was so that I could go to a workout group, but I didn't have to like leave my baby at a daycare or anything. And then
Mhm.
when it becomes your business, there are a lot of things that you have to do, mingling with other people and making sure the moms feel, loved on and taken care of while simultaneously looking out for your child.
Mhm.
So it was, a lot, but I mean, it was great. It was great for that season. And yeah, nap time, taking advantage of nap time sometimes, after we put them to bed. Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
make it work.
Just
Yeah.
make
I think of Tim Gunn often and parent and be like, make it work.
make it work.
Just
Yeah, you
figure it out.
you just do. I'm not sure how, but you just
Right.
do.
Because you don't have another option.
Right.
That's what I
Yeah.
often feel like. Okay, well, we'll
Mhm.
figure it out because
Yeah.
that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So, because you worked with so many new moms and women who are in postpartum period, did you see like a lot of common issues among women in their postpartum, with their physical health or mental health, or what do you see as some of the biggest challenges?
That is an interesting question because I would have answered it differently a few years ago. So I have had a lot of learning myself with physical challenges. I think pregnancy and postpartum, when our mom's generation, the messaging was like, oh, don't work out, you know, and they were fine and they, were pregnant and then had babies and, got into their like aerobics and walking and, whatever. And then when I had my first son, it was kind of the beginning of that mommy fitness culture. And, body after baby and not looking like you just had a baby, even though you did. And we all know the reality of that. Like it's not cute, it's not fun, it's painful, you know. Some people it's great. Some people are blessed and it works out really well. But the majority of us, I know they're doing it 4 times, it never got easier.
Mhm.
And I think so then back then, like the messaging was like, okay, work out as hard as you can. You can work out till your due date. And I did. And then you can come back at 6 weeks postpartum because you're cleared by your
Mhm.
doctor and carry on. Maybe don't do planks, maybe don't do sit-ups, but you can still do plyometrics and running and sprinting and everything else. And then, just a couple years ago, there was more stuff coming out that, like, well, actually, like, our pelvic floors are really affected when we are pregnant. Our cores are really compromised during the pregnancy and then postpartum period. And I think that is a big mind shift that some people aren't ready to receive yet. And that's fine. That's totally fine. But there is more research coming out about that, which I also think is a great thing, because I think that's the beauty of medicine and science, is that what was, taught maybe 8 years ago, we've now done more research and more science, and it's a good thing that methods change, because that means we're still researching. So anyways, now a bunch of us in Stroller Strong have taken the Brianna Battles pregnant postpartum athlete course. And it talks just a lot about, rehabbing correctly of your pelvic floor, of your core, different things that you should not necessarily avoid, but develop different strategies on how to do exercises, so that you can protect during, your pregnancy. And sorry, you can hear my motherhood.
It's totally fine. I feel like I'm at my house, and I'm not right now.
Yeah.
That sounds so
I hear
familiar.
him
Yes.
upstairs.
How old is that little one?
That one's 3.
That's
Yeah.
who he's reminding. I'm like that. He's got to be the.
Yeah. The 8-year-old would probably be like, doors locked, pass.
Yeah. So I think you were talking about the postpartum class. Yeah.
Yeah. So your core and your pelvic floor, just, if you think about it in terms of an athlete or just any person, if you tore your ACL, because let's be honest, I had 3rd-degree tearing with all 4 children. Okay. So some people don't tear, but a lot of people do. So compare that to like an ACL tear. You're off. And then when you're ready to come back to working out, you rehab. You don't go straight into the plyometrics. You don't go straight into the sprinting. You rehab your knee for a length of time until it is strong enough to handle the impact of the other activities, right? So why are we not doing that postpartum? You have carried, so I mean, think about carrying what, like 15, 20 pounds on your torn ACL, or an ACL that is in the process of tearing, for 9 months. Okay. Right. So like a little bit more like reality. Okay. So maybe we shouldn't just jump right into like doing tuck jumps, right? Maybe a burpee right after you lifted that weight off, but your knee is torn. Like, there was a lot of pressure. There was a lot of weight on there. So now the messaging is like, yeah, let's maybe rehab better. And then for moms of multiples, if you tore, like for me, there was a 7-year, 6.5-year age difference between my oldest and my youngest. So essentially, if I had 4 ACL tears in a matter of 6.5 years, people would probably be like, girl, bench yourself. You need to you need to like strengthen your knees. You need to strengthen everything about your body before you go run that race, right? So why are we not kind of realize? I mean, now we're getting more into the messaging of like, a lot happened. A lot happened to your core, a lot happened to your pelvic floor, and how all of that is connected. And, a lot of times people will be like, well, I had a great birth. I didn't tear. My pelvic floor is fine, but I've been having a lot of knee pain, or I've been having a lot of back pain or hip pain. And I am not a physical therapist, but I have worked with a lot of women, and I could almost say that 90% of them, if they were to go see a pelvic floor physical therapist, the pelvic floor physical therapist would be like, let me assess your physical or your pelvic floor. We're going to rehab that. And then your knee pain or your back pain or your hip pain or your glute pain is probably going to go away, because it is so connected. There are so many muscles down there that are connected to the rest of your body. So, I think we just need to rehab a little bit better.
I love that.
Yes. Everything you're saying
Yes.
is like, why haven't we been focusing or spending any time on women postpartum and
Mhm.
thinking about how we don't support them enough? They get that 6-week visit and they're like, "Oh yeah, you're
Mhm.
fine. You can have sex, you can work out, you can do anything." And it's like, first of all, I don't know any moms that want to.
Right, and a lot of it, like I said, for it's not that it's a bad thing, it's just we're learning now. So before it was kind of that being naive and thinking we can just jump back in and whatever. I also feel like, the mommy fitness culture and the body after baby, I think it put a lot of pressure on women to, instead of enjoying the early stages of the baby and the first year of the baby, it was so focused on like getting my body back because that's what I'm supposed to do. And then you wonder why people are having, a lot of mental health stuff. Like, number one, your hormones are not in your control, but then you add the added pressure of trying to get your body back and lack of sleep and not being able to fuel correctly because you're shoving down coffee but not getting food because you're taking care of everybody else and laundry and cleaning and all the other things, with the added pressure of looking a certain way. I actually, it's funny, I haven't spoken about this yet, but it's been on my like to-do list. I Going into my fourth pregnancy is when it started coming out that, people would on Instagram or whatever take pictures of like real motherhood bodies. So people, they were posting on Instagram the real motherhood, the stretch marks, the, even the hospital underwear and the real bodies. And I thought, okay, I am going to show, take pictures of my body. So when I had my daughter, my fourth pregnancy, I kind of had it in my mind that, like, I was going to share the real motherhood pictures, right after I had her and then every month or whatever. And then one night, I kind of just had this thought that whether I'm showing this fantastic body after baby on one end of the spectrum, or I'm showing the real motherhood body after baby on the opposite end of the spectrum, ultimately, we are still putting the woman's body on a pedestal. And so I consciously made a decision that I was not going to take any pictures of my postpartum body because it shouldn't be about that. It should be about like, how are you sleeping? How's the baby
Yeah.
doing? Can I bring you dinner? What do you need help with? How are the other kids doing? None of it should be so focused on the woman's body. And I think that as a culture on either end of the spectrum, we have just put that focus on there. And I kind of just had that aha moment of like, ew, like, I don't like that.
Yeah.
I don't like that. There is nothing, I just don't think it's beneficial, and we can do better.
That is
So true.
yes, I'm like teary-eyed
Yeah.
because it's
But
true.
I don't think our moms, nobody was saying like, "Oh, did you lose the baby weight yet?" Or like, "How are your mesh panties fitting you?" Nobody was ever doing that. It just was like you had a baby, you carried on with life.
Right.
Yeah, you certainly weren't, like, taking and posting pictures of that time on social media. Like, it's
Right.
just
The
it
emphasis on it is so unnecessary, and it's everywhere too. I had a
Mhm.
male colleague before my first say to me, "You have to lose that baby weight because your husband did not marry the you that had the baby. Your husband married the person who had the body before the baby." In my head, you're hormonal, and I'm thinking, God, does he have a point, or is he just like the biggest jerk in the world? But
How
people,
old was he? I'm sorry, I have so many
yeah,
questions,
he
but
was in his 50s. Yeah.
yeah. Is he married?
No. Thank goodness. But yeah, that focus on it is just it's horrifying. It's too much.
It's too much. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Well, good for you. I'm glad you had that sort of aha moment
Yeah.
because I think Right, like you said, at the other side of the spectrum, like, the point is you just had this miraculous thing come out of your body,
Yeah.
and your body did this amazing thing, and let's just appreciate
Let's
that
just
for a minute.
appreciate the baby. Like, let's, and the family and everything else instead of like just the focus on the body. It
Right.
Yeah.
it's more than the aesthetic appeal. It did a
Mhm.
lot.
Right. And if we will focus on the body, let's say, how can we help you heal?
Yes.
Like you said, can I bring
Mhm.
you a meal? Do you need ice packs?
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
what do you need?
Yeah, it's more than aesthetics and like sex appeal, really, you
Mhm.
know?
Absolutely.
That's such an amazing point. I never had thought about the before photos as
Mhm,
much of an issue, but now that you say that, it's like, yeah, it's the same thing. It's just
mhm.
the focus is
It's
wrong, and you're
just, yeah,
totally
the
right.
opposite end of the spectrum, and ultimately, it's still about the body.
Mhm.
Yep.
And
Right.
now with the amazing things it's doing,
Right,
but just
the way it looks. Yeah, that's what I should say, the way the body looks, and
mhm,
that
Right.
mhm.
is no, 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 we're better than that. Yeah,
We are. We should all aim to be at least.
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
You sound very passionate about fitness, but kind of like women's fitness. And so you just sold your company. Do you have your toes in anything else, or are you kind of just taking a break right now?
At the moment, taking a break, although I would say I never stop researching.
Mhm.
I am very passionate about I've always been passionate about fitness, starting with Stroller Strong and working with women and going through, all the things I've gone through with 4 kids. I have really, like, dived in deep with pregnant and postpartum fitness, and that is definitely a huge passion of mine and what I want to pursue in the future. At the current moment, taking, like, a little break, but I definitely, I'm taking a break from the business side of it. I'm not taking a break from the research and learning more because I'm so interested in it. I want to learn more about it. I want to, protect moms and coach them correctly and point them in the right direction of how to rehab correctly because you know, I love the concept of being a mom, but also being able to like have these amazing athletic goals and accomplish them. But I also want the moms to get there without injury. And so, how
Mhm.
can we coach you correctly to rehab to get to that goal and be okay with, being pregnant is not the time to PR. Being early
Mhm.
postpartum is not the time to PR. You will PR, just give it some time. Let's do it correctly. And so, again, just going back to figuring out the new messaging of, because there was a lot of praise with like, being 9 months pregnant and running marathons and or being 6 months postpartum and hitting a PR. But the amount of injuries that can come from that, it's just not worth it. You'll get there, but let's rehab correctly first.
Right.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yes.
Give our bodies a little grace.
Yes.
Yes.
So it is the start of the school year, and you have two older kids. We're totally switching gears
Mhm.
here. What is your school setup? Are you guys virtual? Are you hybrid? What are you guys doing?
Yeah. So, part of selling my business was the reality that I have a second grader and a kindergartner, and we are in virtual school here in Chatham County of Georgia. So they are in their rooms at their little desks with their little computer. And sometimes I think I'm like the hall monitor of like trying to get, the second grader on his stuff and then flip to the kindergartner's room and get him set up. And then I feel like every time I'm in kindergarten, I miss what's going on in second grade. And every time I'm in second grade, I miss the information in kindergarten. And then I've got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old running around and trying to keep them. It's crazy. It is crazy. And I feel for the kids. I feel for the teachers. I feel for the parents. It's not ideal. I feel like in this season of COVID, there is no good decision. I'm a
Mhm.
pretty positive person, but I do just think there just really isn't a good decision
Mhm.
in whether going back, not going back, all of it's hard. And I think, maybe the blessing in all of that is that we can just be a little gentler and kinder with people and, just being more understanding. There was always like how much screen time should your kid have? Well, guess what? The year is 2020 and your kid is getting screen time for school. They're getting about 8 hours a day. And then if you need a break after and they need a break after to watch a show and zone out,
Mhm.
I'll
Yep.
just support each other because it is a really crazy time. And so, yeah, so ultimately from that, I guess, just being a little gentler and kinder with your neighbors, with the other moms and parents and kids going through all this. It's a crazy time.
Yes.
I love that approach though.
Mhm.
That's a beautiful way to say it because what else can we do?
Yeah.
Mhm. And the screen time, oh man, there are days, and
Yeah.
I only have 2 kids, and they're not in school.
But hey, you know what? Like, I just feel like this is the big eye opening to like, can we just not judge anymore? Like, no,
Yes.
but nobody has grounds to judge right now. Let's just no decision is a good decision. Wear a mask, don't wear a mask. Like all of it, let's just like you do you, and I'm going to support you and what is best for you and your family and your kids and what you like. Whatever decision you are making is the right decision. Like, can we just all agree that like I'm going to support you for you? You know?
Yes. Because people aren't making choices for their kids that they think are going to harm their children or others. There isn't exactly what you said. Like for one family, maybe it just doesn't work to be virtual and their
Mhm.
district is doing hybrid and maybe that's what they need. And
Yeah,
like wh- we no one knows what's right. There
right.
isn't a right,
There is
just
no
like you
right.
said. There's just not.
And I think that's a good point of like no one's doing something that they think is going to harm their kids. We're all doing what we think is the best and we're all just making decisions with
Mhm.
very limited information.
We are
So,
all just doing the best we can. Yeah.
Yes.
yeah. Oh, I love that.
What are you doing to keep the 3 and the 1-year-old busy?
Oh,
Like
so sometimes the 3-year-old does kindergarten. I feel so bad. He loves school, and the little preschool that he's always gone to here, or not always gone to, he was only there for 5 weeks before COVID hit because we moved in January. He
Mhm.
loved it and he wants to go back every day, but ultimately I can't get him there. They're open, but I can't get
Okay.
him there because I've got his school starts at 9. It's from 9 to 1, but I've got, a kindergartner or a second grader that starts at 8:30, a kindergartner that starts at 9, and then we have to switch to specials at 9:15 for second grade. And then second grade starts again at 12:05 and then kindergarten at 12:15, and I could not physically get him to and from, and I'm just not going to put that on somebody else to do.
Mhm.
So he'll do kindergarten stuff with my kindergartner, I'll give him like paper to color with and whatever. But
Mhm.
then there are days, he just wants to play. And the 1-year-old, obviously, just, she's one. So, he
Yeah.
walks in their room and then, okay, we got to actually close the door this time. Or so, you know, it's not pretty, but,
Yeah.
but we're
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah.
There.
Seems like you're doing a great job. I'm
Yeah.
impressed that you're even talking about it. You're not crying. You're smiling.
Give me a couple more weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're giving me like the pep talk I need right now. Like, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, do you have any? I mean, you're taking care of 4 kids. Your husband just got back from deployment. What are you doing to take care of you?
I think there are like little things that you can do during the day. I love listening to audiobooks. I don't really have time to sit and read them, but I can listen to them in the car or while I'm cleaning or in the shower. And so I can pour into myself that way by like I'm a nerd for like, leadership books and self-development and whatever. So that, feeds me and so I do a lot of that. Obviously, fitness is a big part of my life. And my biggest motto, I think, has been, more than nothing. So there are a lot of days that, like, I would really like to go for a run, or I would really like to get this workout in, but, my second grader needs me, or my 1-year old needs me, or they're just, it always piles up. And so if I can just do more than nothing, then that's okay. So maybe it's like knocking out a set of push-ups while they're in the bath. Easy enough, right? I did more than nothing. I didn't get to go for a run, but after dinner, we got the kids on the bike, put the baby in the stroller, grabbed the dog, we went for a walk. That's more than nothing. And so some days you just have to, some days I'll get a great workout in, and some days, as long as I did more than nothing, I just have to like high five myself and like, okay, we did more than nothing, and that's okay, you know?
Yeah, I
That's
love
great.
that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because some days, literally, that's all you could do is some push-ups in the
Mhm.
bathroom. I'm gonna remember that
Yeah.
next
Yeah.
time. Yeah. And just letting yourself know, like, if even if you put the effort in to do one tiny thing,
Mhm.
you can feel good about that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Especially right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite tip that someone's given you about parenting or motherhood at all?
I think with motherhood, you just have to give yourself grace.
Mhm.
Again, just going back to like we are all just doing the best we can. And then the
Mhm.
moment you are just doing the best you can. Like, I don't think I met anybody that could say differently. And some
Mhm.
days your best is better than others. We're human. That's going to happen. But you just have to give yourself grace because there are a lot of trying times. There are really a lot of hard times, but then there's a lot of really great times too. So if you can just, whether it's working out, how you're eating, sleeping, how you're parenting, give yourself grace. And, you just have to, yeah, be easy on yourself. It's a hard season. So go easy on yourself.
Oh, that is very true.
Yeah.
I love that too, but it is a hard season.
And do you have any goals for you and your family that are either for either the long term or the short term, post COVID, during COVID, that you want to accomplish?
What a crazy season, right? Yeah, I have I don't have any like race related goals because of COVID or vacations because we can't really do anything right now. I have to say I'm not a huge goal person per se, as in like setting a goal, because I feel like a lot of times they're great. And if people can stick to them, they are great. What I personally do more is habits, because I feel like the habit will eventually lead to the goal. And so, actually, a really great book is called Atomic Habits. And it's all about, starting with your habit, do something that you could do every day for 2 minutes or less, right? So, for me, a lot of people talk about like, oh, your house is always so clean. How is it so clean? And I'm like, well, I clean up as I go. So I never have dirty dishes in the sink. When we're done with the dishes, I just rinse them, put them in the dishwasher. Less than 2 minutes, right? But if I were to let that pile up on top of the laundry, on top of like the chaos that happens in my house with forts and toys and whatever, if I didn't clean up or have the kids clean up or, put away on a regular basis, what could take less than 2 minutes in the heat of the moment could quickly pile up. And then all of a sudden, I've got an hour and a half worth of chores because I didn't take those 2 minutes. So, number one, just getting into habits that are, 2-minute habits. And that is also in terms of fitness, okay, could I do 20 push ups a day? Yep, that would take less than 20 minutes or 2 minutes. Drinking water. I'm a huge water person. My water comes with me everywhere I go. That has become a habit of mine that, like, I pretty much don't leave a room without my water. So I just always have it with me. And then there's the thing called habit stacking. So, maybe every time I go into the garage where we've got a lot of workout equipment, maybe I do 20 squats. Okay. So anytime I go into the garage, I knock out 20 squats and then I carry on. Or, I heard somebody, like, every time they went to the bathroom, they would, I think it was maybe push-ups or something. So they, knock out 20 push-ups. Well, you go to the bathroom a lot during the day, especially if you're now in the mindset of drinking water and eating healthy and whatever. So now you're knocking out like 100 push-ups a day because you habit stacked, right? So you do this thing that's going to take less than 2 minutes, but every time you go to the bathroom, you're doing it. So anyways, as far as, I don't have really long-term goals or whatever, but I do have a lot of little habits that I do throughout the day that ultimately will lead to bigger goals. And that kind of even goes back to like the more than nothing. If I can just do little habits for 2 minutes or less, and if I'm doing more than nothing, ultimately I'm going to get to my, what could be goals or whatever, just because you're doing those daily habits.
That is very helpful.
That is so helpful.
Not as daunting, right? Like a goal can be very daunting. Like, all right, I've got 10 weeks to lose 20 pounds and to PR in this race. And then if you don't do it, it kind of like crushes your soul, right? You like,
Mhm.
I don't know, you just think bad thoughts about yourself, which you shouldn't be thinking. But if you can just do a little daily habit of, okay, well, we're going to go for a walk every day. And then, you just keep doing those. Like, then in the long run, you're going to reach that sort of goal anyways, but you've developed. And once you hit that goal, you're not going to stop because now you're in the routine of your habit.
Mhm.
Right. I feel like everything in this moment feels more manageable.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, why don't I just rinse the dishes?
And if that's not for you, that's totally cool too. Again, let me go back to like, do what's best for you. This works for me, and it for me and my, lifestyle and how I run my ship and whatever. It's much easier for me to just rinse the dishes, put them away. It literally takes no more than 2 minutes. And then
Mhm.
I don't have to worry about that later. And it can be a very, very easy thing like that, that ultimately over the long run, you find you've got a lot more time in the day because you took the 2 minutes to just do that, knock it out real quick,
Yeah,
Sure.
that is very helpful. I
Yeah.
feel very motivated.
I know. I'm like, I gotta go rock this house.
You give very motivational
Yeah.
you are just motivational is what I
Yeah.
should say.
Thank
Yes.
you.
I'm sort of amped up right now.
Yes. And I'm like, all right, I'll do 20 squats
That's amazing.
and then we usually wrap up with a funny or cute kid story, but surprisingly that is hard for a lot of us to think of. So if you can't think of one, we understand too.
I was talking to my husband about that. I'm like, you know what? I feel like the kids, they do crazy stuff all the time and funny stuff all the time. Like my 3-year-old the other day, my husband had just gotten home from deployment. And so, they're on the plane for a long time. And anyways, he was really tired. And I was like, okay, the big kids are in school. He can, like, manage that. And then I'm going to take the little two out of the house. We're going to go for a run. And my 3-year-old actually fell asleep in the stroller, which he hasn't done in a long time. He's really good in the stroller. He kind of just, it mellows him out. He really likes it, but he hasn't fallen asleep. So he fell asleep, and we got home and he woke up and he said, "Mom, my powers are charged." And I was, "Your powers?" And he points to his little eyes and he says, "Yeah, my powers are charged." So I just kind of thought to myself, I'm like, oh, no, when I go to sleep, I need to, or maybe take a nap. I'm going to go charge my powers.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah, it
really
was a real, yeah, he's funny. He's got a good imagination.
Clearly.
Good
Yes.
imagination. Yeah.
Oh, that's adorable.
Do your kid when your husband gets home from a deployment, are your kids just like so excited or are they like, "Oh, I feel like it depends on the ages."
Yeah, and it's been different with their different ages. I mean, they're always so excited and there's always tears, and they all process. You have 4 kids from the same 2 humans that made them, but they're all very, very different. Like, you live in the same house, you've got the same parents, you've got the same rules, but really personalities are, each person is individual. So
Mhm.
they all process things differently. My oldest, when my husband's gone, he takes on like a big leadership role and a big helper role, and just kind of, he is one person that like he won't say anything. You have to talk to him and really pull it out of him. And he'll kind of internalize his emotions. But then, when my husband came home and he saw him, he just, melted. He'd been holding in those emotions for so long. My 5-year-old, almost 6-year-old, he wears his emotions on his sleeve. So if he's happy, it's great. If he's mad, oh boy, you definitely know. If he's upset, you also know that. So he, had to process a lot of the deployment. He couldn't understand how long it was going to be.
Mhm.
He's still learning about that. So halfway through, the beginning was really hard for him. But then he kind of got into the routine. And then, once my husband came home, he obviously was a big ball of emotion too. My 3-year-old, I don't think he really understood. He knew dad was gone, but he processed it the best. He was like, okay, but I can still talk to him. Nothing else has really changed in my life, whatever. And then when dad came home, he was like, the boys are crying. Oh boy, like now, now he felt the emotion. And then the baby, we were kind of, you know, not like worried about, but how is she going to react to him
Mhm.
coming home? And at first, she was funny because she's FaceTimed him a lot. And so when she saw him, she was like, I think I know you, but there's my dog, and I'm going to go run up to my dog because my dog is safe. I know who the dog is. I'm not sure I know you. And then, like 2 minutes later, she went up to him and she pretty much has not let go of him ever since.
That's
Oh,
so sweet. Oh, that's
I
really
love that.
nice.
Yeah.
Well, this has been absolutely amazing. I personally feel so motivated right now. So I'm
Yes.
hoping our listeners take away from that too. We just really appreciate your time and taking the time to do this with 4 kids.
Well, thank you guys for thinking of me and reaching out. I appreciate it.
Of course.
And do you wanna let people know where they can find you on social media? And we'll tag it in our show notes too.
Yeah, my Instagram is slam mama Cerce from Stroller Strong Moms. I don't know if you can even say the little slogan is sweat like a mother, so slam. Yeah, they're slam mama Cerce. You can find me on there. Facebook, Cassie Cercy.
Well, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you,
All
Cassie.
right. Bye guys.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Mommin'. Once again, you can find us at Mommin' Podcast on Instagram, momminpodcast.com. We would love it if you would have it over and give us a rating and review and share this with your friends. Thanks again for listening. Bye.